You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
What are we marching for? Question mark. Protesters and observers wonder alike. They're wondering the same thing in Portland. What are we marching for? What are we protesting? Before we get on into it, my name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies, an appraisal company, and a real estate brokerage. So I'm a real estate guy that reads the news. All right, enough of that. Let's jump on in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing if you see fit. Looking at an article, this is from Oregon Live and Oregonian. And the first picture is, we don't want Biden. We want revenge. Got the antifa symbol, the A with a circle around it, an semi-automatic rifle, it looks like, and then some other symbol, and it says, we are ungovernable. You can't govern us. We are beyond your governing us, except that you are governable because you are governable. It's a hard word to say. You are governable because the police can throw you in jail for breaking the law, which is governing, right? I mean, so your statement otherwise, it just doesn't really make sense. But that's the kind of nonsense that you see at a protest. People making stuff up that doesn't really have anything to do with reality. You know, that's just how these things go. As about 50 people dressed head to toe in black stood in a standoff with Portland police blocking a parking lot behind Benson High School, several parents and coaches from a youth soccer program on the field nearby walked up to see what was going on. What shenanigans do we have the protesters doing now? What are they doing? What are they marching for? One soccer mom asked. The anarchists, antifa, and activists seemed at times to question that themselves. What are we marching for? Who set this expletive up? I'm going to go with who set this S-H-I-T up? Reese Monson asked over a megaphone as the demonstration got underway 2 hours earlier outside Revolution Hall. Revolution Hall. Doesn't that sound like a great place to start a protest? Revolution Hall? Who set this S-H-I-T up over a megaphone? Who's the leader of this protest? Oh, I've got the microphone. I am. Oh, stop swearing in public and do your protest. I mean, there's got to be rules to protesting, don't there? I mean, don't there have to be a set of rules? All right. At halfway in, a bunch of you guys break off and go destroy some businesses. I mean, you guys with the hammers, you guys are assigned to window breaking. You guys with the cans of spray paint, you're going to do a little tagging. You guys over there, you tussle with the cops. I mean, there's got to be order, right? You've got to have order to these things. A voice in the crowd yelled back, "We don't have leaders." Literally, this is how this stuff goes. Those meetings on Inauguration Day outside the Southeast Portland music venue carried on what has become a cat and mouse call for disruption in the city over the last few months, a vestige of Portland's summer protests that often devolved at night into clashes with police. Often? How about every night for 150 nights plus straight? And it's still ongoing. They're still doing it. They're still doing this ridiculousness. The latest iteration has wrought extensive property damage recently in downtown and northeast Portland, including indiscriminate window smashing. I just did a podcast where Portland was called out for having the largest drop in business development potential and in development of real estate in Portland. It had the biggest drop. It went from number 3 on an 80 city desirability scale. It dropped from 3rd most desirable in the United States to do development in to 66 out of 80 in basically over the course of 4 years. It had a little drop between 2017 and 2020, but between 2020 and 2021, oh, that line was almost straight down. It was a steep one, a steep drop-off in popularity. In the article I read, they basically came out and said, yeah, this is happening because of the protests, but they also threw in the wildfires there. A lot of smoke. Oh, my eyes are itchy. Oh, smoke. Not tear gas, wildfires. Wildfires, nobody's going to not pull a permit or consider a development deal because of wildfires. That's a really weird, irregular thing. But when you've got 150 straight nights of the peaceful protesters destroying business fronts of local businesses, that is not where you want to develop your next high rise. That's not where you want to develop housing. It's not where you want to put a business. And so downtown Portland is really suffering under what people are considering peaceful protesting. Even the mayor is like, yeah, we've got some issues, but it's still a great place to live and work and do business. It really is. I don't know how they're saying that with a straight face, because from what I saw last summer in Portland, not a good look. It was literally like a third world. And I know some people are saying, hey, at least here in Mexico, we don't we don't even have the issues you've got in Seattle and Portland. We don't have that. We might not have the civil services. We don't have porta potties. We don't have stuff on our freeways. We don't have a lot of that, but we don't have the chaos that you have either. So even saying a third world country, somehow in a lot of respects, Seattle and Portland are in that, but maybe even worse than a lot of third world countries as far as some of these downtown urban cores go. The direct action events have tied Portland's mayor and police in knots, as well as others in the larger Black Lives Matter movement who want police reform, even abolition, get rid of them, but have condemned the property destruction, have worked to separate themselves from those who advocate vandalism. Well, you're not doing a very good job, because everybody's still like, oh, but that's the left. That's Black Lives Matter and the whole black bloc thing, the whole antifa thing, right? So you need to do something in these cities. You got to do this, because it's been out of control for a long time. And leadership in these cities, progressive leadership, which is really compassionate towards people, just allowing them to live on the streets, allowing them to shoot up, give them clean needles, just loves our fellow human being, but doesn't really love business. There are some repercussions. That's happening. An on-the-ground view of Wednesday's protest shows the lack of cohesion, the divergent ideas of what constitutes free speech in Portland, and the turbulence of the crowd. So we're kind of discussing what goes on during a march. Monson identified himself as a member of the Black Unity PDX, described as a civil rights collective on social media. A civil rights collective. That sounds fancy. That sounds important. That sounds like you're going to be doing some good stuff. He concluded, as others shattered windows of the Democratic Party of Oregon headquarters, "We don't know what that was. That was not us." Who was it then? What are you doing? Who organized this protest? Oh, those guys over there. They're smashing out the Democratic Party of Oregon headquarters. Isn't it the Democratic Party that has basically helped all these leftist protesters? They've basically just given them a hall pass, and yet we're going to go smash the Democratic Party of Oregon headquarters? Huh. That seems kind of self-defeating, but apparently, anarchy doesn't really care about anything, right? Nothing. Anything is fair game. Let's go. Democratic Party headquarters, let's take that on. Let's go smash some windows. Let's just beat on it. People started gathering about 2 p.m. outside Revolution Hall, a rare daylight appearance by the loose band of demonstrators. Usually they show up at night and they wear all black, because then they can blend into their surroundings. They're stealthy. They can run off and bash some windows. A Twitter post on Pacific Northwest Youth Liberations Front account. So they're on Twitter. They're talking about this violence on Twitter. And yet, Parler is the one to blame for all the violence out there. A Twitter post on Pacific Northwest Youth Liberations Front account had circulated with 189 retweets and 440 likes, advertising January 20th, decrying F the state, F Biden, land back F12. It also exhorted explicitly, no streamers, no peace police. They just want to get after it. They want to get down to it and break some windows, do some graffitiing, and basically wreak that anarchy. I mean, that's what they're doing, right? A warning that they didn't want any challenges or recordings of their actions. The no streamers has become a big thing because they don't want to be recorded and have that recording go onto a YouTube channel where police can use it as evidence for their arrest. Right? I mean, they've actually caught on. Yeah, we don't want any streamers because of this reason. And okay, in their defense, that's a good call. But the very activities they're doing, they're not calling for social change. They're not trying to help communities of color. They're doing the opposite. They are literally destroying communities with their actions. Within minutes, a disorganized scrum formed, and about 24 people clashed with Portland bike officers outside the hall, angered by the police appearance and their questioning of some in the crowd. So you've got this really diverse group of people that they're not a collective. They are just a bunch of people running around. We believe this. We believe this. F the police. I mean, that's literally what goes on. When a sergeant removed a banner with poles from one person, the crowd was incensed and yelled, move out, as they pressed forward towards the police. Kind of organized, kind of not. The officer returned the banner, not the poles. Police set off a smoke grenade to keep the crowd back and allow the bike cops to ride off. Police have strategy. Protesters, a little bit, not as much. Within an hour, the crowd had grown to about 200 as they marched through city streets. They wandered west and then north before finally ending behind Benson High School in northeast Portland. Oh, I bet the parents of their children at Benson High are just so proud of the protesters rolling through. They first headed up Southeast 12th Avenue and turned on Northeast Davis Street. With two drummers keeping a beat in the middle of the group, marchers yelled chants including "No good cop, no good president," "Black Lives Matter," and "No cops, no prisons, total abolition." None of those are really that great of chants, are they? No good cop, no good president. It doesn't have a ring to it. Black Lives Matter, yeah. But they say it, Black Lives Matter. And that's where I think it really confuses people, because I think originally the Black Lives Matter movement, it was trying to do something. I'm not even really sure what, but it was trying to do something. And then because these guys throw in Black Lives Matter every now and then, they kind of get to ride the Black Lives Matter coattail, which nobody wants to touch because that would be racist. No cops, no prisons, total abolition. I could hear that with some, a couple of bongo drums, just that whole bump, 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 bump. No cops, no prisons, total abolition. All right, I'll give that one a run. I mean, the message, no cops, no prisons. Oh, that's a world I want to live in. Oh, yeah, sign me up. Where do I go for that? No cops, no prisons. Anarchy. Yeah. All right. They walked until they hit a literal roadblock at Grand Avenue. People stood in the intersection about 16 blocks northwest of Revolution Hall, debating which way to go next. So about a mile. They're a mile out. They're confused. Which way do we go next? I've seen that so many times. Do we go right? Do we go left? Who's got the map? Somebody get Google Map up on your phone. Take the bridge, someone shouted, likely referring to the nearby Burnside Bridge. One man threw a large-sized rock at the back of a passing car. The car continued. Like, yeah, F that. We are not stopping. That's a crowd of 200 people all dressed in black. We know what those guys are up to. They throw a rock at my car. I'm okay with that. We're out of here. We're going to keep on going. Many shouted they felt unsafe staying still. So those at the head of the march turned north onto Grand as a police speaker blared in the background, ordering people to obey all traffic laws. So you've got cops literally following behind like a parade. And the cops will be saying stuff, please obey all traffic laws. That kind of thing where you can what is he saying? Can't hardly hear. It's amplified on a speaker. And then you've got somebody leading the march who's, doing no cops, no prisons, total abolition. That's literally how your whole evening goes. And at the end, you're like, I would like all of that information from all of those chants removed from my psyche. When the police loudspeaker directed people to remain on the sidewalks, the crowd ignored the command, chanting, off sidewalks and into the streets. Oh, it's like a little child disobeying their parents, right? Their parents are like, don't play in the streets, and the kid just darts for the street. Nice call. I don't know where the expletive I'm going, but I don't give an expletive, yelled Marcher Princess Warner 20. Princess Warner, your parents must be so proud. I don't know where we're going. I don't give a you-know-what. Let's just go. We're protesting. We're doing some good here. At the start of the gathering, Warner said she came out to protest to stress that even with a new president in office, the nation must do more to address systemic racism. Well, in all of her 20 years of living, I am sure she has really faced all of that. No, these are just kids out there running around. With this Biden administration, I don't want people forgetting that Black lives still matter, Warner said. They never stopped mattering. Okay. Well, I don't think anybody said that Black lives don't still matter. But you're out protesting and doing crazy stuff. That does matter because that does have an impact on people negatively. It does. Her friend, Teal Linseth, 22, said they haven't been on the streets the past month simply to protest Donald Trump. We're doing marches because Black Lives Matter. Black Lives expletive matter. Black Lives expletive matter. Well, okay. Linda said, injustice. It's time for this to be done. All right. It's going to take some time, and it's not going to happen over the course of a march. So my 6-year-old should not have to go through what I have gone through, Linda said. My child should see, wait a minute. So had a baby at 16. That is aggressive. That's starting early. My child should see Black history stuff. In school, we don't even learn about that. Biden really needs to change education. Foster care needs to change. There's so much wrong with this world. It needs to change. And so by going out on the street and basically disobeying police, you are really sending the message that, okay, we are law-abiding citizens and we want to peacefully make some changes. As the crowd reached the entry ramp to Interstate 84 off Northeast Grand Avenue, it halted. Where the expletive are we going? One man yelled. Some shouted for everyone to turn around. Another responded, there's police cars behind us. Turn around, guys. There's cops behind us. We can't go back. This is the worst expletive march I have ever attended. Another person yelled. This is the worst effing march I've ever attended. You guys need to step up your march game. This protest sucks. Many cut through a car lot and headed back east on Northeast 9th Avenue. About 3:40 p.m., that's an early protest. That's an early march. About 3:40 p.m., one woman urged unity. It's not about making a riot happen if it's not going to happen, she yelled. All right, now we're talking about a riot. It's not about making a riot happen if it's not going to happen. Moments later, the group marched past 9th and Everett Street, where several people suddenly used metal batons and crowbars to smash out windows of the Democratic Party of Oregon headquarters and tag the building with F. Biden messages. All right, so there's the meat and potatoes, right? At least 3 people tagged and broke windows while several others stood in front, trying to shield them by holding up black umbrellas. So if you see protesters with umbrellas, know that they're not concerned about it possibly raining. Those are used in their protesting. That's a protesting tool. Others turned over a dumpster in the street and lit the contents on fire. Nothing says social change like lit garbage in the middle of the street. I know I've said that more than once, but it's true. And even the second time you say it, it still rings true. Dumpster in the street, light that bad boy on fire, stand back and just really be happy with your handiwork. That is the best garbage I have lit on fire all month. That's the best job I've done. Look at that fire go. Look at those lames fleep up from that garbage. Man, my garbage game is on fire, literally. Some people demanded media not film or photograph the destruction. I have had that happen to me so many times. We don't give you permission to film. I don't care. You're on a public street. I'm going to film you. No uniformed police were in sight. Some in the crowd could be heard murmuring that they weren't okay with the vandalism. So here's where it goes. I think there are some people in there in the group that are like, I don't really want to go to jail. I don't really want an arrest on my record. Could you guys cut out the vandalism? I thought this was a peaceful protest. I'm not down with this. Can't you just hear that going on? I mean, that's not what I came for, one person said. What did you come for? The crowd splintered, some after the property damage. Police now trailed the group. As some people marched north on Northeast Flanders and past the Franz Bakery outlet, a man inside peered out a window, just watching the demonstrators in black walk by. Soon, Portland bicycle cops arrived, prompting some in the crowd to warn others that police were closing in. Bike cops, some shouted. Many ran toward Benson High School, just a block away, as others in the group yelled, "Don't run!" So half your crowd takes off. The other stays back and is yelling, "Don't run! You'll look guilty for breaking all those windows." About 50 people now walked on a path just south of the high school, past people playing tennis on nearby courts. As the marchers passed by Buckman Field Park south of Benson, a youth soccer coach yelled out from the track, "There's a lot of kids here. There's a lot of kids here." Someone shouted back, "Not to worry." Police blocked off a parking lot beside the field behind the high school and ordered no one to enter the lot. Don't go in there. Don't go in there. People in the crowd taunted the officers and squeezed little pig toys to make them squeal as the officers stood in a line. I think that is so disrespectful. They bring these little pig toys, and that's a really derogatory term for a police officer. It's just, the whole thing is just like, come on, really? So you got little pig toys. That is so cool. You are really, really sharing your messages with little pig toys that make squeal sounds. Nice job, folks. Blocking the lot and processing some people arrested in the vandalism. So as officers stood in line, that's what they did. They blocked the lot and processed some people arrested in the vandalism. Crazy. Several parents from the field stood at the edge of the lot, watching the standoff, wondering what was going on. By then, some in the crowd, like Monson, had left. Some veered off to Irving Park, where a Defund Democracy Coalition had organized a rally. I mean, if you don't have more than a couple of rallies going on at one time in Portland, that's an off day. I mean, you need to have options. All right, let me check my Outlook calendar and see where we've got the next rally and or protest. Need to get to one soon. Kind of like an AA meeting, right? I got to get some protesting in, right? Monson said he was headed to Irving Park, where the real movement is happening, not the one we just had. I mean, that was a cluster, right? I mean, that protest, worst one I've ever been to. Police said they arrested 8 people, ranging in age from 18 to 38 on allegations including criminal mischief, disorderly conduct, and reckless burning. Police said they removed 2 metal batons and a pry bar from people they alleged were involved in the vandalism to the Democratic Party office. Police also removed 4 Molotov cocktails from the backpack of one man arrested in connection with the smashing of at least one window after detecting the smell of gasoline coming from his pack. Your pack really smells. I know. I've got containers full of gasoline in there with pieces of cloth on there. That's a Molotov cocktail. I read about it on the interweb. So, after detecting the smell of gasoline coming from his pack, according to the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office. That's how these protests go, literally. You follow them around for a few hours, and it's like, there's not a lot of organization here. This is kind of just a meandering group of people that cause damage, because that's their thing, and they don't really do some chanting. They don't really prove any kind of point other than just random violence that nobody seems to want to do anything about. The cops try and do the best they can, but they're in a really sticky situation because the local politicians, they're like, oh, yeah, it's great. They're protesting. They are exercising their First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. And I'm okay with that. But when you start when you start burning garbage in the middle of the street, maybe blocking off traffic, smashing out windows, taking a crowbar to whatever, yeah, that's where I'm not okay with. Throwing a rock at a car, I'm not okay with any of that. Lock those people up for a long time. And then let's just see, yeah, you still want to do some peaceful protesting? Maybe dust off that crowbar. Maybe just see how your skills are. Can you still bash out that window after all these months in jail? That's kind of where I think things need to be. But here in Seattle and here in Portland, that is not the case. That is not what's going on. You've just got this continual free-for-all where the cops follow these protesters around. I mean, they're basically at a high school where kids are learning, where kids are looking out going, these kids are just a little bit older than us. What are they doing? Mom, why are they bashing the windows out of that car? What's their call? Don't look over there. Keep your eyes on the field. That's literally what's going on in these cities. It's so crazy. And nobody's doing anything about it because the media has identified these people as peaceful protesters. Not so peaceful, right? I mean, anytime you carry a crowbar around, unless you are taking nails out of something or you need to pry wood off of something, you probably don't need a crowbar, nor do you need a hammer. Unless you are hammering something, you're actually making something, destroying things, that doesn't count. That doesn't do anything for anybody. And that's all these protesters are doing. So need to come up with some solutions. Real Johnny on the spot leadership in Seattle and Portland need to get this stuff under control because it's just going to keep getting worse. And as it does get worse, I will report it to you right here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast because that's what we do. We talk about stuff that other people are too afraid to because I don't mind. I'm like, all right, I'll talk about it. It's going on. It's an issue. When you have enough peaceful protests in your neighborhood, guess what property values are going to do? They're not going to rise. Eventually our market's going to slow down and people are going to have to, deal in a normal real estate market. Ooh, that one's in a peaceful protest zone. Not so much. It's going to happen. And I will report it to you right here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. Thanks for joining in. Again, I'm Sean Reynolds from Summit Properties Northwest, Reynolds and Kline Appraisal. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.